This dad has watched his daughter die 99 times, but the 100th time might be different. When the world suddenly collapsed into a zombie apocalypse, Ryu Dami and her father had only one goal: survive. But this world was hell for a single father and a young girl, and each time, he failed to protect her. Then came the impossible miracle. An angel sent him back in time. He was reliving the day the outbreak began. This time, a glowing number appeared above his head: 99, his remaining lives, his final chances to save his daughter. Panic-stricken, he dragged her from her room, shouting, "If we don't move now, we'll die." And he was right. Every failure cost a life. The number ticked down: 98, 97. Over decades of retreats, he built the perfect plan, even finding a military-protected shelter that could keep her safe until the end of the world. But by the time he finds it, his daughter is already gone. Instead of taking his life and starting over, he accepts this tragic fate and lives out the rest of his days like a normal person. But even after all those years, his longing to save his daughter never leaves him. Eventually, desperate to reunite with her, he takes his own life, redeeming his final chance to save her. On his final attempt, he swore no more mistakes. But then, the unexpected happened. For the first time in tens of thousands of rehearsals, the zombies were already at the door. He fought to the death to protect Dami. After dying nearly 100 times, you'd think one more death would leave Min-seok numb. And maybe it does, at least on the surface. But as the zombies tear into him yet again, flashes of memory cut through the pain. His daughter as a toddler, clinging to his leg, her tiny hand tugging at his sleeve. The bond they shared back then still burns in him now, fierce as ever. That love doesn't just warm his chest, it reignites his rage. And suddenly something inside him snaps awake. An inhuman power surges through his body. The exhausted, broken dad transforms. With a single push, he hurls a dozen zombies off his shoulders, like they're nothing more than overstuffed garbage bags. One bold zombie charges in, only to learn the hard way: it picked the wrong father. Min-seok tears through the horde like wet paper. A bite sinks into his arm, but instead of panicking, he bites back. Another unlucky corpse takes a fist clean through the chest. And then, because subtlety is long gone, Min-seok leaps high into the air and slams a zombie into the dirt like a falling meteor. Even the undead start hesitating. Their blank stares finally seem to realize, yeah, maybe not this guy. By now, Min-seok looks less like a desperate survivor and more like a warforged titan, aura radiating off him in waves. A single glare sends the stragglers stumbling back. Inside the house, his daughter steadies her breathing, finally calm. When the gate creaks open, hope spills in with the light. And there he stands, alive, towering, muscles rippling like he'd been sculpted out of pure stubbornness. Day 7 of the outbreak, and the scene shifts to the capital, Mapo district. A mart, the grocery store turned fortress. And into this tense scene walks Min-seok and his daughter. The soldiers? Not impressed. In fact, Egghead over there looks like he's one wrong word away from a stroke. Everyone's already aiming rifles at Min-seok, demanding to know how he made it this far. Enter Cha-Harry, the captain. She steps forward and tells Min-seok, plain and simple, get lost. But Min-seok doesn't back down. He begs her to save his daughter, painting himself as the disposable father willing to die if it means his little girl survives. The soldiers roll their eyes until Cha-Harry's face cracks. For a single moment, the merciless captain looks human. And then she snaps back, covering it up with anger, but not before the decision is made. She lets them stay. Of course, Min-seok knows exactly what just happened. He's met her before, in past lives. He knows her one weakness: parents willing to sacrifice everything for their kids. He exploited it perfectly. His daughter, though, not thrilled. Playing the role of the fragile asthma patient doesn't sit well with her, and she resents her father's act. Still, survival comes first. And Min-seok has bigger problems on his mind. For one, he's been bitten, yet somehow he's stronger than ever. His own body feels foreign, almost wrong. And then there's the timeline itself. This run has already gone off script. Unpredictable events are happening that he's never seen before, like the collapsed building near the mart. The soldiers explain it was Harry's work. She lured an entire horde inside, then blew the place sky high with explosives, a brutal but effective tactic. To them, the matter's closed. To Min-seok, it's a red flag. Something about it gnaws at him. And then, just as Egghead mocks him for acting paranoid, the air shifts. A colossal shadow rises from the rubble. Not just any zombie, something mutated, massive, dripping raw terror. Egghead's laughter dies in his throat as the beast rears back its arm. One titanic punch later, the soldier is nothing but a smear on the ground. The monster turns its sights on Captain Cha Hyeri next. She barely dodges, barking orders as her squad opens fire. Bullets rain down, but the thing tanks them like it's collecting energy from their efforts. The massacre begins. One swing, 3 men gone, another strike, and bodies scatter. Hyeri rescues a panicked soldier in the chaos, but even she can see it. This isn't a normal zombie. She orders the retreat. Survivors bolt for the mart. And Min-seok? He stops. His daughter can't keep up, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Fatherly instinct takes over and he turns to face the beast. Every ounce of strength, every ounce of love, funnels into his fists. Switching over to Captain Cha Hyeri's perspective, she's got one plan. Lure the hulking monster toward a special barricade outside the mart. But then reality slaps her across the face. Survivors are still huddled on the first floor. Moving the fight there would be suicide. Hyeri halts mid-step, curses under her breath, and makes the call. If this monster is going to be dragged away, she'll do it alone. And then her eyes flick toward Dami. Her father? Gone. Hyeri's blood boils. Did this man seriously abandon his daughter at a time like this? But Dami points in another direction. When Hyeri follows her gaze, her jaw nearly unhinges. Because there's Min-seok, already on top of the monster, pounding its skull into paste. Every blow lands with bone-cracking finality, reducing the creature's head into nothing but a ruined mess. Soldiers, hardened by war, freeze in disbelief. Survivors can't even watch. And Min-seok? He just exhales, as if smashing a titan into the ground with his bare hands was part of his morning workout. Hyeri steps forward, suspicion etched across her face. This wasn't normal, not by a long shot. Before she can speak, Min-seok turns straight to his daughter, apologizing for breaking his promise to stay low. He admits he cares more about her safety than hiding his secret, and that's why he acted. The problem? Now he's caught every eye in the room, including Harry's, who raises her gun and demands answers. Looking very much like a ripped gigachad straight out of a fitness poster, Min-seok finally introduces himself. And then, dramatically, he begins removing his glasses. Dami tenses, terrified her father's about to ruin everything. But instead of confessing the truth, he smiles and declares himself a zombie expert. Silence. Even Harry blinks, confused. What? According to Min-seok, ever since the outbreak, he's been analyzing zombie behaviors, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities. That's how he knew how to kill the giant brute earlier. He's here to help. At first, Hyeri actually laughs at his ridiculous excuse. Then her blade is suddenly at his throat. She doesn't buy a word. His daughter tries to intervene, but Hyeri shuts her down. The facts are simple. An ordinary man just tore apart a beast that shrugged off bullets. And worse, his eyes. Those dark, crimson eyes that look far too much like the infected. She leans in close, almost nose to nose, demanding to know if he's even human. Min-seok, ever the gaslighter, spins the story again. The bullets did weaken the monster, he explains. He just delivered the final blow. And his eyes? A rare genetic condition, low melanin, hence the sunglasses. Awkward detail, smoothly covered. For a moment, Hyeri studies him. Her gut screams something's off, but his devotion to his daughter, that doesn't line up with being a zombie. Reluctantly, she lowers her weapon, warning him she'll be keeping a close eye on this so-called expert. The mart grants them shelter. Survivors settle. Hyeri, however, doesn't let herself rest. The loss of her men weighs heavy, and she lashes out at the soldiers who disobeyed her orders earlier, punishing them harshly for nearly dooming everyone. Even so, the resentment brewing in her ranks lingers like smoke. Back inside, Min-seok tends to Dami. She's relieved his secret stayed buried, though she can't believe how naturally her father lied through his teeth. He simply explains that Hyeri isn't the type to be convinced easily. He had to give everything he had. His familiarity with her unsettles Dami, but he brushes it off. Later, when she drifts to sleep, Min-seok covers her with a blanket and sits in the quiet. His thoughts churn. Zombies are mutating faster than ever before, more aggressively than in any of his previous lives. Buildings collapsing, behemoths emerging, timelines shifting. And in the stillness, one question haunts him. Is it all because of him? The scene cuts to the cityscape. Just outside its borders, hundreds of mutated zombies march closer with every step. Min-seok can feel them, like a pressure in the air. It isn't just their hunger. It's as if the horde itself recognizes him as the one variable that could end them. Do they fear him, or simply despise his existence? Either way, the answer doesn't matter. So, what does he do? He doesn't wait. He leaves the city first, stepping into the open night, ready to meet the swarm head-on. Alone, in the middle of nowhere, he welcomes the monsters that have conveniently gathered in one place. It makes his job easier. And of course, he comes carrying a ladder, because style points matter. When the horde finally halts and stares him down, Min-seok breaks the ladder in two. His goal is simple: finish this fight before his daughter wakes. He still has to cook her breakfast after all. The confidence radiates off him. The horde surges. Dozens climb over each other in their desperation to tear him apart. But the so-called ladderman charges in faster than their eyes can follow. Heads split, bodies fly, claws shatter against his strikes. These aren't just common infected. Some are mutated, twisted into monstrosities. It doesn't matter. He crushes skulls, sends them tumbling, and with a single blow reduces an Eater-class zombie into nothing. Some mutations retaliate with explosive bursts, energy-like blasts that shred the air. Min-seok leaps sky-high, crashes down in a shockwave, and wipes them out in one devastating strike. Axes soon replace his broken ladder, his speed only increasing as he hacks through the wave after wave. A six-armed beast lunges at him, snarling, only to have its head stomped into the dirt with brutal finality. One swing of his aura-charged blade severs it clean. Minutes blur together in the frenzy until the battlefield lies silent. Morning arrives. Dami stretches awake to find her father already home. No trace of exhaustion, no hint of the carnage. Instead, he sets a warm breakfast in front of her, cooked with care. She smiles, unaware he likely slaughtered 100 monsters while she dreamed. Meanwhile, in Captain Cha Hyori's office, soldiers report the thunderous noises from the night before. When they investigated, they found the unthinkable. Every zombie in the area massacred. Not one left standing. Hyori slams her desk, demanding answers. Did the creatures destroy each other? No. The soldier swears he saw it himself. Within 4 hours, the horde had been erased. A realization sparks. If the area is finally clear, then it's time to evacuate. When survivors step outside, they're stunned. For the first time since the outbreak, silence. For a brief moment, they taste relief. Some even daring to celebrate. Perhaps they think the zombies really have vanished. Even Dami wonders aloud if that's the case. Her father knows better. He quietly fits a helmet on her head, telling her one rule: never take it off. His tone carries a warning, something worse is coming. Then Cha Hyori arrives with her men and a megaphone, confirming what the survivors already suspect: the zombies are gone. Relief explodes into cheering, but the joy is short-lived. She announces that everyone must prepare to leave the mart immediately. The crowd reacts with outrage. Why leave when safety is finally here? They argue, resist, accuse her of recklessness. Hyori reveals the truth. 3 days ago, her unit lost contact with the 2nd Mechanized Infantry Brigade, a heavily armed force still surviving in the region. If they can regroup with them, the survivors' chances skyrocket. But instead of comfort, her words spark panic. Trusting a radio call they can't even confirm feels like suicide. The crowd grows restless, resentment bubbling over. One man, crude and arrogant, mocks Hyori as unfit to lead because she's a woman. His baseless jab only fuels the chaos, swaying others against her. That's when Min-seok finally speaks. His presence alone silences the noise. He reminds them of the truth they're too afraid to admit. The zombies will return. Staying here is nothing but preparing to die as fresh prey. His words cut deep. So much so that even the loudmouth who insulted Hyori recoils, terrified by the grim picture Min-seok paints. Though his reminder sparks fear, it also plants doubt in the crowd. For the first time, some survivors reconsider. Maybe Hyori's path is the only real chance. One man points out the obvious: they've survived this long thanks to her leadership and her soldiers. Captain Cha Hyori is left quietly stunned. A moment ago, she was on the verge of losing control. Yet one simple question from Min-seok turned the entire group in her favor. She doesn't say it out loud, but she can't stop wondering about this mysterious blonde who somehow keeps pulling off miracles. Min-seok, of course, brushes it off. Before she can even thank him, he jokes that he doesn't want any credit anyway. As if reading her mind, he makes it clear. He's not here for glory, only to protect his daughter. With years of surviving impossible situations, he knows how to handle desperate crowds and deadly fights alike. Extending his hand, he assures Hyori that he trusts her to lead them all. For her, the confidence almost feels absurd, but she pushes the thought aside and calls the start of their escape operation. Buses and support vehicles rumble to life, carrying civilians across blood-soaked roads. Dami, seated with the others, doesn't look thrilled. Whether it's the clunky helmet or simply being apart from her father is anyone's guess. At the front, Captain Hyeri stays composed, directing her troops carefully. Crossing the Han River is no small feat after the apocalypse, but there's no time to celebrate. Soon enough, the soldiers spot them, waves of twisted zombies barreling forward, piling on each other in desperation. Hyeri wastes no time, ordering civilians to stick right while her team handles the left. Using the zombies' sharp hearing against them, she has her men toss cans and metal scraps, creating a cacophony that drives the horde's frenzy into overdrive. The strategy works. Their vehicles bait the creatures into a chase. But these aren't slow shufflers. They're sprinting like marathon runners on steroids. Hyeri makes the call to lead them toward the collapsed bridge. Her plan is ruthless, but brilliant. When the convoy swerves away at the last second, the horde crashes headlong into chaos, unable to stop their own momentum. Many tumble into the river below, but plenty remain, shrieking in rage. That's when Min-seok makes his move. Out of nowhere, he rolls in with a road roller, the king of construction vehicles, and proceeds to flatten the horde like dough under a rolling pin. Bones crunch, screams echo, and the zombies that don't fall are shoved straight into the water. The soldiers can only stare in disbelief as Min-seok clears an entire battlefield with nothing but heavy machinery. Dami watches too, flashing back to their earlier conversation where she begged him not to risk exposing his secret. He'd promised to just assist the soldiers. Now here he is, driving a road roller through dozens of zombies. She doesn't even have words. With the road clear, the convoy finally pushes forward, reaching the fortified base of the 2nd Brigade, a checkpoint Min-seok recognizes from past lives as critical to survival. Though relieved to arrive without casualties, his instincts gnaw at him. Getting here in only 8 days is remarkable, but arrogance could be deadly. He knows this is just the beginning. For now, he earns gratitude from Hyeri and praise from the troops. The soldiers even wonder how a zombie expert happens to know his way around heavy machinery. Min-seok only smirks, saying he picked it up to survive. Hyeri thanks him, and of course he teases her to say it twice, earning only a sharp "shut up" in return. Their banter is cut short by Sergeant Lee In-hui, who salutes the captain respectfully. The brigade had been expecting her, thanks to word from Colonel Cha. Hyeri is stunned, though slightly less so when In-hui adds that the colonel described her as a stubborn female officer, much to the amusement of her men. With her glare shutting them up instantly, Hyeri demands to know where the colonel is. The answer wipes the smile off her face. He's at the rear gate, alone, handling zombies without his squad. In-hui tries to calm her, but his nervous smile betrays the truth. The colonel didn't need backup. He went alone, because that's just the kind of man he is. Let's cut to the rear gate of the brigade. From the watchtower, soldiers look down with awe, counting down as their colonel racks up yet another record. 35 minutes, an entire horde cleared, all on his own. This is Colonel Cha Pungo, better known as the Blue Hawk, a decorated commander feared by his enemies and occasionally by his own men. Why? Because unlike everyone else, Pungo has a strange preference: melee weapons over firearms. To him, an axe is the ultimate zombie kryptonite. Guns are too easy. He wants the satisfaction of looking an enemy in the eye before cutting it down. The soldiers respect him, but they're also terrified. They whisper that if this man ever turns into a zombie, the world is finished. After finishing the horde, Pungo rolls his shoulder, joints aching. Age catches up, even to legends. Still, the boredom gnaws at him, day after day, the same weak monsters. But then, something unexpected. One of the so-called Eater-class zombies refuses to stay down. Worse, it's smiling. The creature lunges at him with unnatural speed, and for the first time in a while, Pungo feels a flicker of surprise. Before the attack can land, a massive road roller crushes it flat. The soldiers freeze, staring at the man behind the wheel, Ryu Min-seok. Pungo narrows his eyes. From the moment Min-seok steps into view, the colonel senses it, an overwhelming presence. To him, this isn't a man. It's death itself, walking in human form. When Min-seok casually introduces himself, explaining he came with Captain Cha Hyeri, Pungo doesn't buy it. He charges, swinging his axe with full force. The soldiers gasp. Their colonel never attacks civilians. But what shocks them more is Min-seok calmly catching the axe with one hand. Impossible. At that moment, Pungo raises a red alert, declaring Min-seok a monster in disguise. Min-seok knows he can't hide the truth from someone like Pungo. He drops the colonel's name, then shatters the axe with a single punch. Yet instead of fighting back, he insists he wants to stay here. Pungo doesn't listen. What he sees in Min-seok is too dangerous to ignore. The only language he trusts is combat. With a grin, Pungo accepts the challenge. The Blue Hawk lunges with the speed of a missile, his entire brigade placed on code red. Alarms blare, soldiers scramble, and back at the shelter, Hyeri demands answers. She gets none. Not yet. Instead, Captain Guok levels a gun at her, accusing her of being tied to this so-called monster. Meanwhile, the battle escalates. Walls crumble under Min-seok's punches, his strength far beyond human limits. Pungo pushes himself harder than ever before, trading blows that could kill ordinary men outright. Even so, he can't shake the truth. Min-seok is holding back. Cornered, Pungo demands an explanation. Why fight at half strength? Min-seok answers simply, if he went all out, Pungo would be dead. And that's not what he wants. What he does want is protection. Not for himself, but for his daughter, Ryu Dami. In front of the Blue Hawk, the strongest man he's ever met, Min-seok kneels. He sets aside pride, power, even his own safety, all for his child's survival. Pungo laughs at the absurdity. A man who can break walls asking for shelter. But he can't ignore the sincerity. Min-seok isn't here to conquer. That night, word spreads. Civilians whisper in fear, calling him a monster. Suspicion grows. Eyes dart toward his unnatural strength and unsettling aura. And so Min-seok makes a decision of his own, to be chained, detained, and kept under guard. Not as punishment, but as proof that he means no harm. Though Min-seok is locked away, he isn't truly alone. From the other side of the glass, his daughter Dami sneaks in to see him. She cheers him on, smiling brighter than the sun. And for a father who's endured so much, there's no greater comfort than knowing his child is alive and safe. Dami admits the soldiers treated them kindly after the emergency was lifted, kind enough to let her visit. She laughs, saying she preferred this to the suffocating shelter. But Min-seok can't smile back. Instead, he apologizes, confessing he failed to keep his promise yet again. She slams her hand on the glass, reminding him that without him, none of these people would have had a brigade to shelter in. To her, he isn't a failure. He's the reason anyone here is still alive. Her smile warms him, though behind it, she hides her tears. When roll call summons her back, she waves one last time and bolts off. Min-seok watches her leave, his heart heavy but proud. What he doesn't see is the moment she breaks. Every step away from him flooding her with emotions until she quietly cries. Both father and daughter put on brave faces, but deep down, the pain of separation cuts deep. Soon after, a sergeant enters Min-seok's cell. The Blue Hawk is calling. At headquarters, Colonel Cha points at a map, Gupabal Station. A faint distress signal suggests survivors are trapped inside. But there's more. An unidentified frequency echoes alongside it. Whatever it is, it's unknown, and speed is critical. For that, he's chosen a squad of exactly two, himself and Min-seok. This is more than a rescue, it's a test. To measure Min-seok's resolve, to see if his love for his daughter drives him to fight beyond human limits. The father doesn't hesitate. With a single motion, he shatters his chains, revealing that he could have escaped at any moment but chose restraint for Dami's sake. Now, free by choice, he's ready. Night falls on the ruined city. Under moonlight, the entrance to Gupabal Station stands broken. Inside, frightened survivors cling to hope. A baby's cries echo in the dark, drawing complaints from the more anxious. An old woman defends the child, but the tension only grows heavier. Then the baby points upward. Her mother follows her gaze, only to freeze in terror. From the ceiling, a figure peers down, its face stretching into a grotesque grin, one red eye glowing in the shadows. Headlights blaze through the dark. A truck barrels in, crushing the horde under its wheels. Inside, Min-seok and the Blue Hawk crashing into the chaos with reckless precision. The colonel smirks, bragging his truck outclasses any steamroller, faster, sharper, deadlier. But even as he rallies the civilians, he warns, two variables threaten the mission. First, the subway is caved in, blocking the main routes. Second, an unknown creature lurks inside, its signal caught alongside the survivors. There's no time to waste. The plan is simple. Use the intact ventilation ducts to reach the trapped civilians. Everyone comes out alive, the Blue Hawk declares with confidence. But Min-seok, stone-faced, says otherwise. The mission will fail. The colonel reels at the blunt reply. Back inside the station, fear becomes reality. Survivors find themselves cocooned in webs, suspended from the ceiling like prey, struggling, panicking, screaming. And in the chaos, a mother searches desperately for her missing daughter. She plunges down a staircase, calling the child's name, but at the bottom, she halts. frozen before a monstrous silhouette. From the dark emerges a nightmare, a giant abomination, the body of a baby fused with spider legs, its vacant eyes locking onto her with pure hunger. The monster's face twists in blood and tears, a portrait of agony that freezes the mother in place. She can't move, can't breathe. All she can do is cry, whispering to herself that this must be a nightmare. But before despair can claim her, a sudden explosion of fire erupts, lighting up the station like the sun. The creature screams in fury as its body is swallowed by flames, and from the smoke, a shadowy figure steps forward. Our hero. On the ground, the mother watches with tear-streaked horror. Min-seok, standing tall, reminds us of one simple fact. The colonel tried everything, but never managed to save anyone. His eyes burn with resolve. This fight isn't about military strategy anymore. It's about keeping his promise. The monster roars, a high-level skinwalker spider ready to feast. But Min-seok answers with raw fury. He unleashes a devastating energy blast that slams into the beast, tearing its body apart. Not letting it breathe, he charges in with a flaming fist, hammering it until the aberration shrieks in pain. Just as he winds up for the finishing blow, a desperate voice cuts through. The baby's mother. Tears streaming, she begs him not to hurt her child. Min-seok freezes, because in that moment, he realizes the truth. The fight isn't over. The spider creature lunges, aiming straight for the defenseless mother. Without hesitation, Dami's father throws himself in front of her, his body igniting with flame as he takes the brunt of the assault. His fists burn brighter than ever, fueled not by anger but by his daughter's smile, her voice reminding him, "I trust you, Dad." With a roar that shakes the station, Min-seok smashes his flaming fist into the ground. The shockwave blasts the monster back, but it still refuses to die. Its eyes glow red, its mouth opens wide, hatred pouring out with every step forward. But Min-seok is faster. One decisive strike shatters the creature's face, sending it reeling in agony. For a heartbeat, it cries, like a monster mourning its own twisted existence. Min-seok stares it down. That's the only sound you deserve to make. The aberration mutates again, revealing its true form, but it's too late. With one final flame-filled blow, Min-seok ends it. The beast collapses, lifeless. Silence. The survivors, huddled in a nearby hallway, don't even have time to breathe before the door bursts apart. Smoke fills the air. People panic, voices overlapping in terror, until a lone figure emerges from the wreckage. Min-seok, wounded but unbroken, carrying the baby's mother to safety. The story then pulls us back, revealing how the mission began. Through the ventilation ducts, Colonel Cha and his squad stormed the station, guiding survivors to safety. 37 lives saved that night. Against all odds, a miracle. Among the rescued, the mother clutches her baby, whispering thanks through sobs. Soldiers stand in awe, and amidst the chaos, Dami herself calls her father something greater than a survivor. A man of miracles. The crowd cheers, soldiers salute, but Min-seok? He simply smiles. Not for the fame, not for the title, but for the daughter who hugs him tight, whispering that she still believes in him. But while the world celebrates, shadows creep elsewhere. In a quiet room, a soldier tends to the sickly Roka, leaving him to rest. The door shuts, darkness swallows the space. And as Roka lies in bed, sweat dripping, his skin begins to twist, his face slowly changing into something terrifying. At the military base, the night is alive with celebration. Music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses fill the air as survivors finally breathe in relief. Even Colonel Chapungo, usually all steel and command, lets out a booming laugh. Sitting beside our hero, he slaps his shoulder and declares he always knew this day would come. "Didn't think you'd do this well," he admits with a grin. The Blue Hawk raises his glass, congratulating him, but warns they should celebrate with balance. Party too hard, and the ones who went first would be disappointed. The mood shifts as the colonel raises his drink high, a solemn toast for the departed, a promise to keep surviving in this broken world. Our hero clinks glasses, though his red eyes glow faintly in the shadows, betraying heavier thoughts. Curious, Chapungo asks why he hasn't questioned him about the failed plan or about the monster he once was. But before the silence can linger, the Blue Hawk answers with unexpected ease. "I already know everything." He takes another sip, uninterested in tales of the past. "What matters," he says, "is the will to save lives. The people right here, that's all I need." For once, our hero smiles, a quiet, understanding smile. The party continues with light banter, but underneath, threads of tension twist. The colonel watches closely, asking why our hero is here when his path lies elsewhere. Our hero explains that rushing ahead only ever led to failure. recalling fragments of past lives under heavy rain. The Blue Hawk studies him carefully, then mutters, half joking, that the hardest thing in the world to control is a child. Notably, Captain Cha is missing, but the thought fades when drinks are refilled. The colonel downs his glass in one go, while our hero nearly chokes in surprise. Dami interrupts, looking tired, and excuses herself for rest. Protective as always, her father insists on walking her back. The colonel stays silent, watching the two disappear into the dark. He understands. Beneath the flames and power, Min-seok is still just a father. But even so, he whispers to himself, I can't let him go so easily. As he schemes a new plan, unease settles over the hall. A soldier suddenly stiffens, sweat pouring down his face. His eyes dart wildly as he repeats, almost in terror, the title of brigade commander. The party falls into confusion as his voice breaks. We have a problem. Meanwhile, under the night sky, Min-seok and Dami walk together. He's quiet, weighed down by the colonel's words about children. When he finally speaks, his voice is heavy. He asks if she's afraid of him. He remembers his monstrous form, the terror in other people's eyes. But Dami, she never hesitated to call him father. Still, he pushes, Are you afraid of me? In his mind, the nightmare unfolds. Dami trembling, admitting she's terrified, screaming for the truth, calling him a monster. But then, he snaps out of it. She's right there, concerned, touching his arm. Her voice soft. What are you thinking about? He brushes it off with a strained smile. Yet before he can say more, she coughs. Light at first, then harder. He fusses like any father would, telling her to bundle up, promising to fetch medicine. But suddenly, his eyes blaze red. Rage flickers without reason as he calls out her full name. Dami freezes as he rushes toward her, his glowing hand raised. Her scream pierces the night until his grip closes. Not on her. On a mosquito. Awkward silence. He stares at his palm, baffled. She stares at him, still shaken. He mutters something about pests, but the quiet doesn't last. A siren blares across the base. Code black. Back at the party, the sweating soldier convulses, his face twisting grotesquely. Gasps fill the room as his eyes rot with malice, his mouth curling into a monstrous grin. Survivors panic, scrambling as the impossible becomes real, and Colonel Cha, once smiling, now stares in disbelief at the horror unfolding before him. The scene shifts back a few minutes. Colonel Chapungo had once joked that zombies were eaters because of their bulging bellies, but after seeing that spider-like creature, he muttered that maybe eater was a handsome name in comparison. That's when Min-seok spoke up, his voice flat. They evolve. The words froze the colonel. Min-seok continued. Cold and certain, more cunning, more powerful. Their threat against us won't stop. Back in the present, the truth of those words becomes clear. Colonel Chapungo grabs a zombie by the neck with terrifying ease. This is why Min-seok chose this place. The colonel isn't just a soldier, he's a beast who can bench press 230.5 kilograms, a force stronger than an entire brigade. With a twist of his arms, he tears the zombie's head apart like paper. His cold stare alone declares what kind of monster he is. One soldier stammers, how could a zombie appear inside the brigade? Chapungo doesn't waste time. Get the people to the shelter, quickly. The soldier hesitates, frozen in shock. The colonel roars, Hey, do you all want to die? Terrified, they shout back, Nen no, and rush to follow orders. Grinding his teeth, Chapungo mutters, This damn virus, how did it crawl all the way into my brigade? Then he notices something chilling, a mosquito bite on the zombie's neck. Before he can process it, screams erupt. Several soldiers convulse, then turn into zombies, lunging at their comrades. The colonel kicks one in the face, the sheer force sending it flying. He snatches up a stick and smashes another's skull. Get my gear, and someone. Find Min-seok, he bellows. Soldiers scatter to obey, while Chapungo, gripping the stick like a warlord, charges in. One after another, he smashes zombies to the ground, shouting, This is my kingdom, built by me, Colonel Chapungo. Elsewhere, alarms wail across the base. Code black, everyone to the shelter. The focus shifts to Dami. Min-seok hurriedly zips her into a thick honey extractor suit. Dad, isn't this a bit much? She asks, wide-eyed. What kind of zombie is it? His reply is grim. A mosquito zombie. One bite and you turn. It's the first time he's seen this variant. His jaw tightens. So what? No excuses. If Dami dies, everything ends. Meanwhile, Chaheri's eyes widen as the news spreads. Mosky? She repeats. A soldier explains nervously. Captain Min-seok says minimize skin exposure. Suddenly, another soldier rushes in, pale. Captain, a single zombie outside the brigade. Irritated, Harry snaps. A single one? With all this going on? He hesitates. It's a toad. And not just any toad. This thing is ugly, monstrous. It opens its massive mouth and a tidal wave of zombie mosquitoes explodes out. A massive swarm, the soldier screams. Everyone inside now, Harry orders. But then she freezes, eyes wide, because stepping into the chaos is none other than him. Yep, our Giga Chad has officially joined the chat. The story cuts to a few minutes earlier. A soldier had begged Min-seok to leave with them, but he refused. He couldn't abandon his daughter. That's when Dami placed the helmet on his head with a smile. Don't worry, Dad. Right now, not even a lion could bite me. I want everyone to live. I can't do that. But you can. Back in the present, our Giga Chad shoulders his weapon, the almighty flamethrower. With a single click, fire roars to life, and the sky filled with zombie mosquitoes turned to ash.